I'm just about 9 months late with this video, but I just now managed to get a decent amount of hours into the game. I was busy, okay? What's up, everybody? This is my spoiler-free video review for Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance for PS4, PS5, PC, and equivalent Xbox consoles. Now, this is the re-release of the 2021 Nintendo Switch exclusive video game Shin Megami Tensei V from Japanese game developer Atlus. Among other changes and additions, this new re-release version of the game features an additional second storyline available right at the start of a new game. The final conclusion of this video is gonna be the answer to the question, when you first pick up this new version of the game for the very first time, which story route should you go for? The original story, Canon of Creation, or the titular new storyline, Canon of Vengeance? Take your hand. Now, I can imagine you're thinking it's probably cool to first start off with the original story route to know what the game's original intent or deal was and load up on some
Shin Megami gamer cred
before jumping into the new story. I'm telling you now, when that deciding moment comes, just take your hand. Trust me. Aside from that, I'll be discussing some of the most apparent changes and additions made to the game. What is different and why? Now, you can just decide for yourself if this re-release really is an upgrade to the original. Like I said, I'm going to do my very best to keep this video as spoiler-free as possible. I will, however, give you this. Is there any good reason at all for you to pick up an original copy of the game for the Nintendo Switch? No, just get Vengeance and be done with it. It's the complete package. Now, did you already play Vengeance or did you play the original? How do you feel about the game? Let me know in the comments down below. Are you a Shin Megami Tensei fan, or was this your first entry into the series? It was for me, but it hooked me to the series right away. Now, what is Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance? Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance is a re-release of the game
Shin Megami Tensei V,
released in 2021 by Atlus for the Nintendo Switch. Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance is a JRPG where you explore a post-apocalyptic Tokyo in a segmented semi-open world. You recruit a wide variety of different demons, and you have turn-based battles with these demons and various other enemies. The Megami Tensei series first found itself all the way back in 1987 on the Famicom, the original Nintendo Entertainment System back in Japan, with the release of Digital Devil Story Megami Tensei. From these first humble beginnings, these games have been dark, hard, and very evil. Everything about these games is evil. The adult themes and storylines, the presence of actual demons, dark and weird humor, but also the gameplay is evil. It's really not that hard to die in these games. For instance, a big feature of the iconic press turn combat system hugely favors the party that is hitting the right beat, rewarding every single critical strike or hit to an elemental weakness with an extra turn. An extra opportunity to hit another critical hit and earn you another extra turn. That means when you are winning, you're winning hard. But when an enemy demon is clobbering your party, you're getting clobbered hard. It's unforgiving and it's evil, and it's an awesome part of the game. It's a big part of what makes this series stand out from the JRPG pack. Also, the game seems to not care for the player as much as in other games. When negotiating with a demon, trying to get him to join your band of various angels, monsters, and demons, they will often ask you for a large chunk of your money, your stamina, or magic power, or even your health. Complying with this request, however, does not mean they are definitely joining you. Sometimes they just run off with your money and disappear simply because they don't feel like joining you. They might say it's because you smell or look weird. These demons are tricky, as is the case with 2003 Shin Megami Tensei III Nocturne on PlayStation 2. The game starts with the entire world facing an apocalyptic event and Tokyo turning into a giant, evil wasteland with various horrors. The plot revolves around the main character, the Nahobino, a demonic fusion of a quiet high school student boy and a mysterious, tall, muscular man with blue hair. They try to piece together what happened to the world and why, eventually starting a journey towards actual godhood and the means to destroy and rebuild the entire world according to your own vision. The game features a beautiful, unique, and gripping art style with vibrant colors, shimmering dunes, breathtaking skyboxes, dynamic geometric shapes, and contrasting light beams. The game has always been very pretty in its essence, and I think it has always been universally accepted. Its Nintendo Switch exclusivity should be considered a crime against humanity for hiding the potential of its absolutely beautiful presentation. Luckily, this new release also made available for PC, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and equivalent Xbox consoles. Now unlocks the game's incredible potential. That was good. The game's newly expanded soundtrack underscores the pivotal moments, from tense negotiations with the demons to nerve-wracking, highly strategic turn-based battles, blending otherworldly soundscapes with haunting melodies, industrial electronic breakbeats, and at times raging heavy metal guitar tracks. As the story unfolds, it beckons the players to not only witness, but to ponder and shape the fate of the world. A new addition to the battle system and part of the extended character development in the new version of the game is that your human companions can and will now join you in battle. This puts a huge twist on these battles, because just like the player character and in contrast to your demon body roster, they can also use items in battle from the very start of the game. The video game developer behind the Megami Tensei series, Atlus, tends to release new versions of their previously already completed and self-contained video games several years after their original releases, with numerous updates like story and gameplay changes and these so-called quality of life upgrades. They then kind of label that new version of the game as the definitive version of the game, in a way belittling the video game experience you may have already had with the original game. So what's up with this new version? Well, first and foremost, the biggest addition to the game is of course the new storyline Canon of Vengeance. Is it a sequel to the story? No. Then what is it? Well, it's an alternative story. What does that mean? Well, I don't know. I like to believe there are now two different parallel timelines that have their respective origins in that singular decision you make at the very beginning of the game. After that, for the first roughly 15 to 20 hours of the game, both stories follow the same beats and outline, with the addition of some more bits of character development, little twists, additional cutscenes in the new Canon of Vengeance. Now, was the addition of this new story route really necessary? Well, that depends. If you like to take to heart the opinions of game enthusiasts on platforms like Reddit and YouTube, almost everything about the original storyline of the original game was absolute trash. I'm not really sure how I feel about that myself. What I do know is that the original game, while very entertaining most of the time, did make me lose interest at times, because subject-wise, the story just wasn't that compelling to me. Also, I had no idea who any of the friendly NPC characters really were. I kept forgetting their names. When about 30 hours into the game, huge plot twists happened regarding certain characters. I had no idea what profoundly consequential events were actually unfolding right before my very TV-shaped eyes. I had zero attachment to any of the involved characters at all. Also, most of the things just seemed to happen just because. Major plot events and decisions seemed to just be decided upon by the characters without them actually explaining themselves, or without making a lot of sense when they did try to convince you of their convictions. With this new storyline, I gotta be honest, in the first hour, I felt myself kind of rushing through it, thinking I had heard and seen it all before. But as soon as the numerous very small changes to the story became apparent, I really started to get increasingly engaged. Now I took about 3 small breaks to go play something else, and always found myself returning after maybe an hour or two, because I either wanted to know what was gonna happen next, or I just missed the way the game felt or made me feel. In contrast, it took me months to beat the original game. No matter how much I enjoyed the art style, the demon catching, the dark and evil vibes, looking back, I just kept getting turned off by the story. It just wasn't interesting to me at all. But with this new version of the game, some days I play it for 10 hours straight. That's rare for me. I actually work full-time and have plenty of other things to do in life. What else is new? Well, there's some quality of life changes and other things they added or removed to smooth out the gameplay, and it is smooth. You can now save anywhere, anytime. This is a huge change to the game. Like I said, Shin Megami Tensei games have always been very evil, in part because of the press turn battle system. The game over screen is never far away, no matter how much health you do have. All it really takes is encountering a somewhat larger group of demons than you can handle, them hitting critical hits or weak spots, and thus continually increasing their turn count. And before you know it, all hits keep coming at Yanahobino, the main character, and you're done. The advice given to new players has always been to save as often as you possibly can. Before, in the game's overworld, you could only save at one of the ley line fountains. Most of the time they were always within reach and not too much of a slog to seek them out, but you did go have to seek them out. That means moving back from the exploring you were doing to go back to the ley line fountains and start menu diving to save your progress. Now, saving progress is just one button click away, no matter where you are. The abscesses now play a different part. These big purple eyeball demons once clouded huge regions of the map and a pulsing fog of war, actively actively encouraging you to go in for close encounters with their respective demon protectors and take them down, thus lifting the fog of war. In the new game, they're just kinda there. They dare to pose a challenge if you seek them out to fight them, and they might reward you with miracle powers when you do beat them. But this gives you a lot less reason to seek them out. It does mean the world is more open-ended to you without having to do anything. There's no restrictions on where you can go on account of not being able to defeat the abscess demons. But I don't think I've seen anyone online talk about this change. Was I the only one who kind of enjoyed this part of the game? To me, this was always a very rewarding part of the journey. What was the reason for changing this? I guess when looking at the game's story, there really isn't that much of a good reason for these obstructive abscesses to be all over the netherworld. Seeing how the biggest sell of this re-release seems to be the new and improved story aspect of the game, I think that must have probably been the thought behind the change, removing the abscesses clouding the overworld. Or maybe they just wanted the game to be more open-worldly from the get-go. There's now Megatsui rails, brightly glowing, very trippy red spots on the ground in the overworld, pulsating with geometric patterns that spawn a red line, which the now Albino can rail grind through the air like Sonic the Hedgehog from point A to point B and back again. This is not a small new addition. These Megatsui rail spots are literally everywhere. If they're not immediately right there, visible in front of you on the ground when you enter a new area, they will be uncovered by your companion Fairy Familiar or other otherworldly demon companion. I find myself hardly using these rails to actually get around the map in a constructive way. I actually don't really know where I'm going. It's always just a surprise. In my opinion, if you actually need to be somewhere in the world where you're not currently at, just use a ley line fountain to warp to someplace close or just walk there. There is a run button. It seems to me like a quality of life or a game expansion edition that just takes it a little too far. But maybe that's just like my opinion, man. It does look cool. I gotta say that. It does look cool. Zapping around the world on that rail never gets boring. The demon haunts. Another big change from the original game is the increased focus on character development. This certainly applies not only to the human side characters that have added dialogue and brand new cutscenes, but also to your demon friends. Whereas in the original game, you didn't really get a chance to really connect with your demon buddies, aside from summoning them in battle. Now you're actively encouraged to seek them out in the so-called demon haunts. Think of these as evil wasteland versions of the secret hideouts from Persona 5's Palace dungeons. Here you can engage in conversations with your demons and get to know their individual characters, how they see the world and what drives them. Some will utter words of encouragement, comment on your adventures, discuss their private matters, or they will hit on you. You also get the option to give them gifts to help strengthen your bond with them. When you're traveling through the overworld, running around, having a grand old time, exploring the evil wasteland, and suddenly a demon wants to talk to you, you're informed of this extensively through text boxes, and an exclamation point will remain next to the demon's name in all menus until you go find them in the demon haunt and listen to their story. More often than not, hearing them out will give you a valuable stat bonus, so you can't really avoid it. The game actively encourages you, pushes you to develop a bond with your demons. An added effect of this is that it can make it a little difficult to say goodbye to your demon buddies when you need them for a demon fusion. Fortunately, you can still save each demon in your compendium, including all their new stat gains, so you can always summon them back if you have the money. Speaking of demons, there are new demons. There are some cool new additions to the demon roster. Most of the time, for most of these demons, I wouldn't be able to tell you whether they were or weren't there before in the game. They just fit in with the OG demons very snugly. Others, however, kind of make me wonder why, in the name of God, the development team felt the need to add these new creatures. I personally feel like some of them don't really fit in with the feel of the game or the existing demon theme. It can kind of ruin the immersion into the game world for me. A little bit. What is also very apparent at times is that the newer demons for the most part seem to inhabit the new parts of the world that have been added to the already existing maps and are made accessible through the Megatsui rails. In a way, this makes the distinction between parts of the original game and the newer parts of the game even more apparent. I guess it's just easier to add the new monsters to the new parts of the game instead of having to rebalance the already existing parts of the game when you introduce new monsters. Now, the visuals, obviously the game has received received a significant visual upgrade on every console that's not the Nintendo Switch compared to its original release on the Nintendo Switch, resulting in a much prettier and smoother experience. The improved textures, higher screen resolution, ambient occlusion, anti-aliasing make the beautifully designed game world even more stunning. Furthermore, the high frame rates and sharp pixel detail have enhanced the very basic and Spartan menu screens. Also, the transition wipes from the overworld to the pause menu, which was a painfully stuttery mess in the original release, is now smooth and seamless, making it a much more pleasant experience going into the menu screen. And let's be clear, it is a JRPG. So you're going to be opening and closing the menu and seeing that screen wipe a lot. Of course, it's no surprise that the game is obviously going to be many times prettier on a next-gen console compared to its original release on the now elderly gaming tablet, the Nintendo Switch. But let's be frank, this game really was held hostage at gunpoint on the Nintendo Switch. On PS5, it is a true delight to experience the evil wastelands of post-apocalyptic Tokyo in a glorious 60 FPS. The Naobino's hair never before waved so beautifully as he ran throughout the shimmering dunes of Da'at. Almost every graphic is razor sharp with crisp details. Pop-in is way less noticeable and it feels like the foliage is a lot denser and more detailed. There's even some new foliage variants that react to the Naobino's movements in interesting ways. One small thing that always bothered me in the original Switch version of the game was demons in the distance idling at a very low frame rate. I understand having to not render every distant object at the highest resolution and frame rate saves a lot of CPU power. Performance streamlining cuts to the graphical presentation are always going to be necessary with a modern video game running on the 2017 Nintendo Switch gaming tablet. But the game world already is quite barren. Don't get me wrong, the art style itself has always been gorgeous, but if there's nothing in the distance to catch your eye aside from a single demon jittering about at 10 FPS, it does kinda hurt your soul. Concluding, aside from the additional new storyline, there's been some major upgrades when it comes to the gameplay, as well as in the graphics department. This is why I would say that this re-release is indeed the definitive way to play the game. Let's be quite frank, the game still is not going to blow your mind when it comes to the story, but it sure makes for a very fun and engaging gameplay experience that has now been smoothed out considerably in multiple different ways. Now, if you haven't yet played the game, is there any good reason for you to go out and buy the original 2021 release of the game in 2025? Well, that depends. Are you a video game collector? Is there any reason for you to really want to play the game how it was originally released? Judging by the numerous changes made to the game, both small and negligible, as well as big and impactful, it's hard to think of the original version of the game as the pure vision of the game as originally intended by the developers. For that reason, I would say no. There is not a single healthy, sensible, and financially responsible reason for you to play, let alone buy, the original 2021 Switch version of the game. Get Vengeance and just take your hand. You'll have a grand old time. Thanks for watching and sticking around till the end. Be sure to subscribe if you want more videos like these, and I'll be sure to keep them coming. Please. Both small and
Negligible.
Negligible. Negligible. Okay, terug.